All right, but now let's move on, because now we have Ukraine, right? This is extremely dangerous. Let me introduce it in the following way. Last Monday and Tuesday here in Washington, there was this U.S.-Russia forum, and this was held, the opening day was held in the Hart Senate office building. If you go into the newest of the Senate office buildings, on the top floor, the 9th floor, there is a large space which is used as an auditorium. So here we had the Russian ambassador, we had all kinds of important scholars and experts and spooks and so forth. If you want to read about it, you can see that the Daily Beast took this occasion to slander me. Take a look. And Accuracy in Media, one of the reactionary writers over there, also decided to slander me for being present at this thing. But here was the thing. Professor Stephen Cohen, who was at Princeton and then NYU, he's the husband of Katrina vanden Heuvel, the owner of The Nation, right, who I've been critical of. But the useful thing about this power couple here, Cohen and vanden Heuvel, is that they are against the idea of a new Cold War, and they're very aware of the tremendous danger, so much so that we had Cohen basically saying the following, that Putin is under tremendous pressure inside Russia to do more because the killing continues, right? The fascists of Lvov and Kiev are killing the people in Lugansk and Donetsk and those areas, and this is simply going on, right? And it's simply, the West doesn't care. 2 Russian reporters killed. West doesn't care, right? 1 Al Jazeera gets sentenced to jail in Egypt. The world is ending. But 2 Russians killed there, nothing, not a ripple. And an Italian killed, and another Russian, and a Frenchman wounded, nothing. So the word from Cohen is Putin is under pressure, and you can see it. It's not a secret. You can see Sergey Glazyev, who is part of the circle around Putin. Right? Putin keeps a kind of an array of advisors to get different points of view, but they're also people whose ideas are often then become policy. With Cohen, he's saying that Glazyev, and you can see it. You can look on my Twitter. You can see this tape. Glazyev is calling for a no-fly zone, right? That there's got to be air interdiction to stop this killing. And then Cohen goes on to say he fears that if this crisis goes on, we will have tactical nuclear warfare, tactical nuclear weapons being used. And I have to say, I'm very happy to hear this. This is what I've been saying essentially since 2004, right? That Ukraine is the most dangerous place on earth because it's the only place on earth where you're going to have, within likelihood, nuclear forces clashing. If you have, for example, Polish NATO troops coming into Ukraine from the West, behind them stands the U.S. nuclear deterrent. And if you have Russian forces coming in from the East, well, behind them, the Topol-M intercontinental ballistic missile and much else. So there it is. So I thought that was a rather stark warning from Cohen, right? And he also pointed out that he personally has been silenced and vilified, right? He's been, I'm afraid the people, a lot of the people who become hysterical about this have this idea that Putin oppresses the gay community. I think this is much exaggerated. In other words, I don't see any evidence of anything beyond a law that is sitting on the books, which has not had very much practical effect. And in any case, you're talking about World War III, so maybe that deserves a certain amount of attention, and I hope it will. Now, what I tried to do in this thing with a couple of questions that I was able to ask is to call attention to the work of academician Sergey Glazyev, who is an economist, he's a political figure, and again, he's one of these advisors to Putin. And the word from Glazyev goes like this. He says, look, if we are hit by another round of sanctions, sector sanctions or anything else, then the response would be, first of all, to say, dear London and dear New York, if you cut us off from trade, we can't pay our debts. So we will renege. We will repudiate many hundreds of millions or many billions of dollars of loans from U.S. and British banks to Russia. Another thing is to dump U.S. Treasury securities, of which I think they had about $500 billion, probably somewhat less than that now, maybe 200 or 300 million billion. I'm sorry, in these bonds, right? So they would dump those. But here's now the main thing: they would have capital controls and exchange controls. Are you with me?
Yeah, that's
capital controls and exchange controls. You've been strangely silent.
I'm enjoying it. I'm letting you go. There. Yeah, no, we're
controls. Here. No. I just want to know if we're still connected. Capital controls and exchange controls. This is to defend the ruble against a panic run organized by London and New York using credit default swaps and such stuff, right? And then the main center, and this is, I think people should understand this, right? People who have been concerned about the Federal Reserve, what he says is the Bank of Russia, the central bank, is nothing but a satellite of the U.S. Federal Reserve, because the only way the Bank of Russia prints rubles is if they have dollars to cover it. It's a kind of a dollar reserve standard, if you like, which I think is a very bad idea. And so does Glazyev. He says we should mobilize, we should nationalize. He doesn't say that, but this is what he's recommending. We should take control of the Central Bank of Russia, pull it out of the hands of the Federal Reserve and so forth, and begin issuing national credit, low interest, long-term loans for infrastructure, great projects, manufacturing, trade, agriculture, and so forth. They already do have some kind of a system where they can get 2 to 3% interest on foreign trade, right? They have subsidized that much. But the rest of it is still this crazy, suicidal free market claptrap, which was imposed by the U.S. and the British under Yeltsin, right? And the changes in policy that have come under Putin, the area of change that has been slowest and the least satisfactory is precisely finance, economics, and so forth. For many years, we had this guy, Kudrin, Kudrin, a neoliberal. We also had German Gref, Gref, another part of Putin's group. And those people, with the head of the Russian central bank is Madame Nabulina. And this madame has been dancing to the tune of Bernanke and Yellen. So what he's proposing is dirigism. And that's what one of the more intelligent Russian newspapers said. That's dirigism. That's also what I stand for. Now, the standard slander, when I asked a panel of these experts, right, I basically went through a short version of what I just said, right? Look, capital controls, exchange controls.
You mean at the Hart office building or
at the Hart office building? Yabos.
Thank you. Clarity. Okay. Go for it.
So I said, look, Mahathir Mohamad in 1998-99 proved that with capital controls, exchange controls, you came out of the Asian contagion faster than if you did it any other way. So those two things, getting control of the central bank for national credit purposes, and then these other sort of economic defense measures. If you push Russia any further, aren't they going to do this? So there were two people. One was an American by the name of Wayne Merry, who was he's a veteran of the State Department and the Pentagon. And he said that he fervently hopes that the Kudrin faction will defeat the Glazyev faction, right? The thing you have to know about Glazyev is that he tends to represent also the Siloviki. The Siloviki are the power ministries, right? The army, the secret police, the interior ministry, right? The border troops, these people. So the strong nationalists, right? People like my friend General Ivashov, right? You look on the internet, you can see me with General Ivashov there in Brussels. And then we had another guy, Leonid Gozman, of the Union of Right-Wing Forces, right? Soyuz Pravich Sil. And these are really extreme characters. They were part of Yeltsin. There was a guy called Nemtsov, who was the head of this party. Nemtsov, he was part of Yeltsin. He was sort of the extreme right wing, but neoliberal again, free market, Milton Friedman, all this garbage, right? Austrian school in some respects. And this Guzman said, Glazyev is crazy. Glazyev is crazy, communist. So they were apoplectic, okay? And what I saw from this is they hate Glazyev as much as they hate Putin, or maybe more.
Maybe more. We got to go on a break. Hold on. And that's, by the way, is probably the fastest way to get to a nuclear exchange. Shut down the private bank. But we'll be right. All right, good friends. Let's get right back to it. Dr. Tarpley is with us. We've been through Syria. We're going through the Ukraine. Now we're talking about the ultimate battle. Economics, Wall Street versus an independent Russia, and that's where we kind of left off. And the prescription, as was proposed by Glazyev over there, is to deprivatize their privately held central bank, part of the Federal Reserve System, no?
Yes, Glazyev, right? It's Glazyev. Glaz means an eye. I mean, sometimes you'll see Mr. I, E-Y-E, but that's just because the machine translation can't understand, what's going on, right? But yes, right now, the momentum towards sanctions has slowed, but this could change literally at any point. And there was a faction fight, and is a continuing faction fight, between the neoliberals, led by Medvedev, but with Kudrin and Greff and others, and then the Siloviki, with Glazyev being one of the leading nationalists on the scene. And this, of course, is fascinating for us, because this is the only way that I can see that the system of privately owned central banks can be terminated. And it's not going to be terminated by simply dissolving, abolishing, ending the Fed. No. It's going to be the nationalization, the deprivatization, the federalization, right? So that you're not having a central bank that serves banks, but a Hamiltonian national bank that has to serve the entire economy, full employment, rising standards of living, and technological modernization. So those are all the things. And Glazyev writes about this stuff. He says, look, we have to have the normal Russian company has to borrow at 8 to 10%. Why should that be? Why don't we have low interest? And here, it's similar here in the United States, right? The zombie banks either don't lend to industry, or they do so at exorbitant rates, and therefore people can't get business loans for actual tangible physical production, right? The prejudice of the bankers is all in the direction of derivatives and similar swindles, right? So this is a way to do it. So if the Anglo-American mad dog imperialists continue in their aggression vis-a-vis Ukraine, this could occur. And again, the thing to do is not to be afraid of it, but to prepare yourself for, if this happens, we're going to need a hue and cry to imitate it, right? That's what this would be. It would be a way to establish in our time, in a very important country, needless to say, that the central banking system is a failure because it's privately owned. It does not respond to the public interest. It is not a creature of the state. It's a creature of a private financier oligarchy made up of sociopaths. Now,